leave it to the experts tonight, but just give you a quick 2-minute overview of Lightforce and how we get to here. Originally from the UK, as you can probably tell from the accent. I was an electrician by trade and went off travelling about 15 years ago. Landed in Australia and we were there just as the Rudd government released the subsidy for solar. It was 2008. Solar just started to take off. I was installing panels over there, and then I decided to move to New Zealand and expected to sort of see a pretty similar landscape, and arrived and there wasn't a panel in sight. So there was a car battery and one panel on Rakino Island, and still working today, amazingly. And we basically were subcontracting. I started the company, it was 8 years ago, and it was man in his van, and we were subcontracting for all the different companies at the time that entered the space early. Most of them have subsequently been and gone. And we bided our time until the market started to really pick up, which was about 4 years ago. And then we set about trying to bring a fully in-house model, which is the only company in the country that is fully integrated, from sales, engineering, installation, through to system support, monitoring, and everything in between. We've now got over 120 staff across 6-7 locations across the country. And yeah, I mean, we've started to see a massive uplift over the last 3 years. The solar connections have basically been doubling year on year. In 2020, I thought we saw about 3,800 systems across the country go in. 2021, we saw 6,800, and we're on track for about 10,000 this year. So the growth is really starting to pick up, and the economics are starting to look pretty attractive, even without a grant. So Jordan will dig a bit deeper into the system design and how it looks financially a bit later. So that's in a nutshell, a bit of brief history there, and I'll hand you back to Cap for the fun stuff. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Luke. So, as I said, I'm going to talk through a little bit about the future of energy and what role solar has to play in that. So we really are at the cusp, on the cusp of a massive energy revolution. And this transition from a carbon to an electric economy really is going to be the biggest disruption we witness in our entire lifetime. This carbon-free economy where electricity fuels everything, and renewables, namely solar and wind, will lead the way here. And traditional energy models just simply won't survive. All transport will be electric, autonomous or semi-autonomous, and smart homes and businesses will run on clean, green, renewable energy. Many homes and businesses will have their own power plant on the roof. And solar really is primed and ready to deliver on this. So solar is now the lowest cost, it's the cheapest, it's the cleanest, it's the most easily scaled and rolled out of all generations. And this is really happening almost purely for economic reasons. Nothing ever really happens at great pace. It's commercially viable, unfortunately, but in this case, we're getting there. So, global oil peaking. We're about to witness the collapse of the oil industry. And all of this is going to be over, in the next decade, by 2030, probably less than 10 years. We've already hit the peak of internal combustion engine vehicle ownership. So ICE vehicles, for the first time now in history, is dropping ownership of an internal combustion engine car. So this era of centralised, extraction-based energy, oil, gas, coal, nuclear, will all be over in the next decade. It really will. And it's not going to end, obviously, because we run out of these sources of energy. It's simply because these sources of energy are going to be disrupted by far superior product architectures and business models. These forms of energy simply won't be able to survive, against technologies like solar and wind. So we've actually seen more generation capacity installed from solar energy than any other form of generation technology worldwide, bar none. So there's been more solar generation installed since 2017 for the last 5 years than anything else in that generation space. So it's a very exciting time for the industry. First time since the Industrial Revolution, we've seen a renewable outstrip a traditional energy generation model. So that's something like over 40,000 panels each hour of each day for 365 days a year. It's a lot. And what's happening here is an absolutely classic technology disruption. So what is a disruption? It's when a new product, service, really creates a completely new market, and it massively transforms or completely destroys existing markets, products, or an entire industry. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening here in transportation and energy. It's a classic technology disruption. And I talk to transportation and energy at the same time because they are part of the same disruption, and they're quite closely related. So a technology disruption happens when a number of exponentially improving technologies converge at the same time, and then they go on to accelerate each other's innovation and adoption. So here's one we all know very well, the smartphone. So in 2007, Google and Apple came up with their version of the smartphone, and Motorola and Nokia, some of you will remember, maybe you Gen Zs might, were left in the dust. So it literally happened overnight. So what's happening here? There were a number of technologies that made this thing possible, converging at the same time, all accelerating each other's innovation and adoption. Computing power, data storage, digital imaging, network capacity, lithium-ion storage technology, GPS, touchscreen. All these things converged at this time in 2007 to create this pretty amazing piece of kit. So what's happening in the case of energy and transportation, because again, these two are closely linked. What are the technologies at play in this massive disruption we're seeing right now? So obviously we've got solar PV, we've got lithium-ion battery technology, we've got electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, and TaaS, so transport as a service, on-demand transport. And these disruptors are complementing and accelerating each other's adoption and innovation, and it's causing massive market trauma in both industries. So this clean disruption, is what we call it, is really flipping the architecture of energy on its head, and it's resulting in cheap, abundant, participatory energy where consumers are now becoming prosumers. You know, we're able to generate, store, trade, share power. So we're really taking the power back, and we're taking the power into our own hands. So it's a really, really exciting time. And what we know about technology disruptions is that they always happen as S-curves. They're never, ever linear. So, and they're accelerating faster and faster and faster, as you can see. And when that adoption is around the 1% to 2%, below 2%, you barely notice it. But when you hit that 2% tipping point, that's when things go nuts and you see this phenomenal growth. So where are we in New Zealand on this S-curve, this adoption curve? So in New Zealand, we've got 1.8% of homes with solar, tiny, about 40,000 homes to date now. And we look across the ditch, and you know, in Aussie, we've got 32.5, over 2.7 million homes. Obviously, the Aussies have had the grants and funding that we haven't had, but we're really getting to this tipping point organically, which is exciting, and the cost of solar is just at that point now where it's such a great investment and it delivers a really awesome ROI, return on investment. So here's a couple of solar uptake scenarios predicted by Transpower New Zealand. So Transpower are predicting that 70% of homes and 40% of businesses will have a solar connection by 2050, and the majority of that growth is going to happen, it'll all be over sort of by 2030, so massive growth in the next 10 years. So we're going to see that hockey stick moment of that adoption. And solar is just really cool because it's allowing this distributed model of energy. We're moving away from this, you know, mass centralised generation, which is dominated and controlled by the big corporates, by the incumbents. Distributed, decentralised, localised, as I said before, participatory energy models, where we're producing, sharing, storing, trading our own energy. Digitalisation of energy is a really big player, a big driver here. So, smart metering, trading apps and all that kind of stuff. So solar really is going to play a very key part in building a really resilient and robust energy landscape for New Zealand and obviously for the world. We know with our tired and ageing infrastructure that can't, handle the current demand, we've got issues. So, we really believe that solar and energy storage is the answer. You're going to be reducing your power bill, reducing your carbon footprint, and gaining that energy independence from the grid.
We chose to go with solar because obviously there's a lot of emphasis nowadays on renewable energy and doing what we need to for not only New Zealand's clean green image but also for ourselves, because obviously solar and renewables are money savings. We not only generate electricity, we also sell it back into the grid. And part of the reason that we wanted to do this, like every homeowner, we get that bill at the end of the month and we clutch our heads and go, it can't be this much. During the summer months particularly, when the sun is high, we get a credit, which makes me absolutely do a little dance. And I check my app and I can see how much electricity we're generating, which is fantastic as a homeowner and also as a person who does the family budget. In the winter months, obviously the light is a little lower here, but we do experience some sunlight as time goes by, and Lightforce set up the most consistent usage to gain maximum benefit from that. And the guys turned up, they were very personable, they explained everything they were going to do, they were careful around our house, which was important to us because it's a brand new build. And one of the guys who turned up, I found out later, I didn't realise at the time, but it was the boss of the company. And that really impressed us, that the boss was willing to come all the way out here and have a look at the system, make sure it was being put in properly, and extremely personable, and we really found that was a great thing to be able to see happening. So we understood basically when we put a system in, it would have quite a load expectation because we have a big spa pool, and also my mother-in-law lives with us and likes the heaters on a lot, so we needed a system that could cope with us. So we have 22 panels on our roof, and we put a battery in to hold that, and we also later on decided to put another battery in because we wanted to save as much sunshine as we could along the way. Part of also what we're doing here is the aesthetics of the place. It was designed by an architect, so to have the black panels up there which fit in so beautifully and make the place look really great. There's a talking feature also for our friends who come around. They all comment on it, which is lovely. In New Zealand, we need to be thinking about sustainability. We need to be thinking about how we can make the most of what we are able to do with technology, and the system Lightforce has put in and fulfills all our needs with that, and means that we can also feel that not only are we getting our electricity free, we get water from the heavens, we get sunshine from the heavens, and wow, life's good when that's happening.
Little introduction of myself. So my name's Jordan. I'm a senior consultant here at Lightforce. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not from New Zealand either, a bit like Luke. So I've been in New Zealand now 4 years. No plans on going back to the UK anytime soon. I had actually taken a job, so I've been with Lightforce 18 months now. I'd actually verbally committed to another job 18 months ago, and my friend said, come in, have a chat with the guys at Lightforce, come in and just have a chat. So I thought, what's the harm in going in? So walked in, came out an hour later. I've got a very difficult phone call to make to that other company this afternoon. So yeah, I went in, had a chat with Lionel, had a chat with Luke, and just fell in love with the company. My gut instinct told me this is the right place to be, and here I am, 18 months later. Stick with your gut is my advice. So that's a little bit about me. So let's jump in now to why solar. So there's kind of three main reasons why people come through to wanting solar. So the main one, people come sit down and say, I want to save money on my power bills. So people constantly getting higher and higher power bills, and people have had enough. So ultimately, with solar, you put solar on your roof. Nowadays, solar's returning, paying itself off in kind of anywhere from 8 to 10 years. So you're looking at a return on investment around about 10 to 15%, and that's really quite risk-free. So when we look at solar as an investment, how does it fail? Well, the sun doesn't come up one day, it's going to fail, but then that is certainly going to be the least of your concerns, that your solar system is not going to pay itself off if the sun doesn't come up one day. So it's really quite a risk-free investment that's returning really well. So given that the panels now have a 25-year warranty with an expected lifespan of 30 plus years, the investment as a whole looks really, really attractive. So point number two on why people want to go solar is to reduce your carbon footprint. So Kat touched on it there. Solar is now the greenest source of energy. So We all see what's happening in the UK, for example, where London hit over 40 degrees yesterday, what's happening to the world. So it's what we can do individually by reducing our carbon footprint. It's putting solar panels onto your roof and being more renewable, more green. And then kind of the third point is energy independence. And that's becoming a lot more front of mind, that energy independence. So there's kind of two sides to that. So everyone would have seen last year the power cuts across New Zealand. So that energy independence side of things, not being so reliant on the grid so that you can still have power in a power outage. So you don't want to be at the mercy of the power companies. They want to turn their power off one day. Okay, we're just going to wait until that power comes back up. And also the energy independence side of things of rising power prices. So if you were to say put solar and a battery in your home and you reduce your reliance on the grid to 10-20% of what you are right now, you're really not quite at the mercy of power companies just upping their power prices. When I was back in the UK 3 months ago, the government had deregistrated what power companies could do regarding upping their prices, and my granddad's power bill had doubled in 1 month. So energy independence, it's being able to have power when there's power outage. So, and then also energy independence is that not being so at the mercy of the power companies. So when you look at solar as an overview, you know, you're investing in a pretty low risk system, paying anywhere from 10 to 15%. It's giving you energy independence from the power grid, and you're also reducing your carbon footprint. So it's pretty much tick, tick, tick for most people nowadays. So that's why solar. So got a little video here of how solar works.
So how does solar power work? How does this free energy from the sun power our homes? When the sun comes up and hits your solar panels,
they turn sunlight into DC energy. This type of energy can't be used in your home, so your solar inverter changes it into AC electricity, like the type your appliances use. From here, it flows into your switchboard, where it's redirected throughout your home through your existing electrical wiring. The panels work during daylight hours, even if it's cloudy or overcast, and any excess power that you don't use gets sold back to the grid. And the good news is, you'll get a credit on your power bill every month for this. Because power costs more to buy from the grid than you can sell your excess for, lots of people choose to install a battery. If you do choose to add a battery to your system, you can store this excess energy produced during the day to use at night, or in a power cut. In a power cut, you don't want to have your battery backing up your entire home, just the things you really need, like a few lights and a couple of power points to plug in your essentials. And if you still produce more energy than you can use or store, then this energy also gets sold back to the grid. And to keep track of all this electricity coming in and going out, we change your meter to an import-export meter. When the sun goes down, your panels don't produce energy, but you can still use what's stored in your battery. And if you need to top up, then electricity still flows from the grid. And you can rest easy, knowing that when the sun comes up tomorrow, you'll be powering your home with free energy from the sun all over again.
Okay.
So how does solar power work?
Okay, so there's a picture of our team. There's actually Luke in the top left there, actually doing some work. And then we've got the team there in terms of we've got installers in there, and we've got some of the sales consultants in there as well, and Matt there from IT. So the majority of those guys are still with Lightforce, and when was that taken, would you say, Luke? 3 years ago now, and most of those guys are still with us at Lightforce. So why Lightforce? So solar looks great, yeah, it looks very attractive, but why choose Lightforce? So Luke touched on it a little bit earlier, that we're now one of the largest solar companies in New Zealand, but we're pretty unique in that we are the only fully in-house team. So essentially what that means is, from your first point of call with us, talking to a solar advisor who will basically run you through a few questions, see if you qualify for solar, if it's actually going to benefit you. Then you'll sit down with a consultant who will design a tailor-made system for you. Then we have our fully own in-house installation teams, so we don't subcontract out our installations, and that's really where we're quite unique in the solar game. So all across the country, we have teams based in Kerry, Auckland, Hamilton, Wellington, Nelson, Christchurch, Cromwell to come as well. So we service the whole country with our own teams. We're not just subcontracting out that work. So The quality of your install really depends on who's available on the day and where you are in the country. So we have our fully in-house team, and then post-install as well, very important. So you'll get a 25-year warranty on your solar panels. This is a company that you are going to deal with for a very long time. So choosing the right company when it comes to solar couldn't be more important. So Kat's going to touch a bit on our dedicated training academy. So we've opened the Lightforce Academy last year, where we're working with MSD, and we're basically putting people through to train them up into solar and kind of taking them on board with Lightforce. 7 years in the solar game now. There's a lot of cowboys in the solar game. They think, great, can get involved there, do great things, they're in and out within 2 years. And who is it that's in trouble then? The people that have bought the systems with them. You're then kind of stuck with a solar system on your roof with no support from the company because they've gone under. So 7 years in the solar game. The company's grown from, I think it's probably 60 people when I started at the beginning of last year. We're now over 120. So we're here for the long term. Nationwide hubs, I spoke about that. We're all around the country, and also Lightforce is a power company as well. So we've got solar farms going in this year, and we can also power homes across New Zealand with clean, green energy. So that's a bit on Lightforce. Why Lightforce? And now I'm going to jump into a system design, okay? So I'm going to show you our amazing software. Okay, so this is the software that we use to design all our solar systems. So a little overview on the program. So it's called Aurora Solar. So this is a company based out of California, okay? So it's really, really incredible what we call solar mapping software. So I've got a home here, and basically the software is going to know geographically where you are within New Zealand. So you could have exactly the same home in Auckland as you could in Dunedin. I always use Dunedin as the example of not great generation. So you could put this home in Dunedin, exactly the same system will give you a different outcome. Because what this software is going to do is it's going to plot the sun's path across the whole year. So really nice and high in the sky, you've obviously got your summertime. We're down here today. So if we look at the sun's path today, which is the 20th of July, so that is the sun's path today across the sky. So little cherry on top with the software as well is that it factors in 10 years worth of local weather data as well. So what this software ultimately gives us is the most accurate numbers we can give to you as to how much solar power we can generate on your roof. So it's pretty cool. So before we jump into any consultation, what we do is we get from you a couple of power bills. So there's a lot of little crumbs of what we need on the power bill. So ideally we want a summer and we want a winter power bill to see, because naturally a New Zealand home will use quite considerably more power in winter with heating and whatnot than they do in summertime. Essentially what we'll do before any consultation is we'll load in here roughly how much power you use across the whole year. That's completely different for everybody that we sit down with. So this is a standard New Zealand home, and they're using 8,000 units of power, and you've got kind of your peaks in June, July naturally, and you've got less in your summer months, January and December, and we can pretty much fill in those blanks in between. So that's why we only need a summer and a winter bill. We'll also look at your power bill, and we look at power bills every single day and look if you are being robbed blind by the power companies. It happens far too often where people just don't know what's going on the power bill, and they're on the wrong tariff and they're just wasting money. So we'll look at your power bill. We'll load in how much you're paying for power into this software. So in here now, before we even jump into the design, we've got how much you pay for power, how much you use, and roughly how you use that power across the whole year. So let's jump now into a design. So it gives us a 2D image, okay, of the home. And this is a really nice house for solar. So what we can do with this software now is we can actually build this home in 3D. So we start quite simply. It does all the work for you. Anybody could do this. All you have to do is follow the edges of the roof. The pressure's immense to make sure that I'm nicely on those edges. There we go. So now it's going to give us this is what it thinks the home will look like, and we're just going to edit it a little bit here to get the folds in the roof there. Awesome. Home is looking good. Pretty spot on there. So now another thing that we look at on this is we want to look for any obstructions on the roof. So little vents, satellite dishes, aerials, chimneys and stuff like that. So fortunately we've only got this, what looks to be a little solar bubble here. So we're going to pop that as an obstruction on the roof. We cannot use that roof space there. And we also have a little vent there. So let's pop that little vent in there. Great. So now we've modeled the home That's going to be flat on the roof. So now we've modeled the home, any obstructions on the roof. So now what else is important here is we need to look at any shading. So the trees around the home, and you can see actually on the roof here, you can actually see there is a shadow being cast in this photo. So we can actually pop into street view here. So essentially what we're looking at here on the left is the actual home, and we can go down the road and essentially look at those trees there. So those trees, they're not huge, fortunately. You know, if they were absolutely massive trees, it would be a slight concern, but we can now model those trees based on looking at that. Okay, so we're looking at the pitch of the roof. It's a pretty standard pitch roof there, about 20 degrees, and we're also looking for any trees around the property that's going to cause shading. So what we can do now is we can start popping trees down here. Let's draw some trees. This is important because it will cast a shade on some panels if we're going to put panels here. So it's important that we model that in our software. So there we are. So we've got the house that's been modeled really accurately in 3D. Any obstructions on that roof that's going to cause issues for putting panels there. And then we've also got the trees modeled there that could affect generation and on the roof. So what I'm going to do now is run what we call an irradiance report. So it's going to basically calculate everything that I've just gone over, trees, vent, satellite dishes, the sun every month of the year. And what it's going to give us is some nice colors after all that. There we are. So we have some nice shades of red there. So essentially what this is showing us, it's visually showing us the best roof faces for solar on there, with this lighter red being a slightly better roof face than this southwest facing roof here. So it's also, I don't know if you can see that very clearly on there, it's kind of a different shade of red at the bottom of this roof, and the reason for that is that it's factored in the shading of those trees. So now what we can do, now's the fun part, now's the part where we design the solar system, okay? So we program the specs of the panels that we use in there. So we can grab some panels and we can start putting panels onto the roof here. So the best roof faces for solar on this home is going to be this roof face here and quite nice and high up on this roof face here. So of course this is very much a custom design system. Some people don't want panels on certain roofs, you know. Somebody might say, I actually wouldn't like panels on there because it's the first thing I see when I get into my home. Panels we use now are all black. They look particularly slick. So if we're just going to design a system here based on best roof faces, we can start putting panels onto the roof face here. So let's get rid of that irradiance and let's pop the panels on the roof there. So we've already preloaded how much power you use. So if I say pop, this is 10 panels on the roof. So this is a 3.9 kilowatt solar system. This is going to run a quick simulation here, and it's going to compare how much you're using versus how much you can produce. It's going to do them side by side, and it's going to give us what we call an energy offset. And that is essentially saying what percentage of your power use across the year can we generate. So we're at 2/3. So 2/3 of your power can be produced by just 10 panels on this roof. So you could certainly justify more generation. And if we're going down the battery route, ideally we want that number to be at about 100%. We want to generate what you use across the whole year so that then we can charge a battery, and that's going to really be 80-90% plus savings on the power bill. So if we're going to pop more panels on the roof here, let's pop a row of 5 across there. Let's get more generation. You can never have too much power. So now we've got 15 panels on the roof. And that is now producing 7,788 kilowatt hours of power, which is, for a standard New Zealand home, uses about 8,000 units. So this system is producing what a standard New Zealand home would actually use in a whole year. So what we can do now is, obviously at this point we can put panels on, we can take them off, but we can actually look at what that would do for your power bill. So like I said earlier, we've popped in the rates that you pay for power. So there's no cookie cutter quotes or anything like that. So this is all bespoke, it's all custom made, and I'm just going to grab up here. Okay, so let's pop in, I've just popped in here, this is standard pricing, so just basically what the average New Zealand power price is. So when it runs its simulations, because we're producing 97% of the power on your roof, it does not, unfortunately, mean we'll reduce the power bill by 97%. Because what happens is, if you're producing power and you don't need it, you're going to sell that back to the power grid for a credit. So believe it or not, that is not a one-to-one exchange. The power companies are not going to pay you, or you have to pay them, believe it or not. So with this system, you'd be selling quite a lot of power back to the power grid at not a fair exchange rate. So with a solar-only system, with this 15-panel system, you would expect to reduce your power bill by about 45%, give or take. So that's got some really clever calculations on the back end that Aurora have done that is basically saying how much power of that production you will use. So what we can also do on this software is, I touched on it earlier about, we're going to look at your power rates and see if they're competitive at all. Sometimes they are. Sometimes people are really onto it and they're rechecking their power bill every 6 months, which I'd advise. But if we look at your power rates and we say, okay, they're not very attractive and certainly not attractive for solar, because a lot of power companies out there, there's some that are better than others, I'll put it that way, in terms of what they pay you. So if I was to say change these power rates here to Lightforce power rates, for example, and we'll check a few different rates. We do this every day, so we've got a really good idea of what the good ones are. So if I was to say, okay, your rates aren't that good for solar, let's see now what the savings would be if you went onto Lightforce power rates. And then if I run a simulation on that again, only thing that's changed there is the power rates. Once you've gone solar, you can see the power bill savings are significant. So that's just based on going onto a really competitive solar rate. So that's gone from 45% to 66%. So now you're looking at reducing that power bill by 2/3. If you were to add a battery onto this system, you'd be expecting reduction in your power bills 85, 90% plus. That is just based on solar only and not a battery system. So that's kind of how we design all our solar systems. Does anyone want to be brave and give me their address and be kind if it's a difficult roof? Yeah?
Yep.
Right, let's do it.
Number 10, Andre Rise, A-N-D-R-E, Rise,
Um,
Bay.
Andre Rice, Stanmore Bay. Right.
Waiting for Jim, everyone. No problem.
So let's do it now without all the prep that's gone into that. Fortunately, we've got our nice crystal clear satellite imagery. I was worried that we wouldn't have that. So let's look at your roof, and it looks to be really nice for solar.
Got a builder's pole
Ah,
at the moment, so there's no record of proper.
there we are. So we have, that's you?
That's it. Waiting for Jim. Gonna go.
There we are. So you've got kind of one that's angling towards east, one that's angling towards west, and one that's angling towards east. So ultimately, you'd have the option. Is it quite a monopitch roof? What would you say your power bill is on average?
We're not in yet.
Stabbing in the dark.
It's on a builder's pole at the moment.
So you have essentially, you could have the outcome that you wanted from solar. You know, we are limited by roof space quite a lot of the time, and it's not always possible to really eliminate those power bills. It's certainly possible with you. So it would just be a question of how many panels you wanted in there. There we go. Our software likes your standard 4 corners, nice pitched in the middle. So it's a little bit 3 buildings like that. No trees around there at all? Yet. What do you plan on planting? No, that's the wrong way. Pressure's immense. There we go. So there is your home, or pretty similar to that, isn't it? Feel free to say no.
It should be about 170 square meters, something like that.
So ultimately, you'd have the option with a home like this is you could tilt the panels towards north if you wanted to. So, or you could put them flat if you didn't want to see them on tilts. But if I run an irradiance report here, you've got 3 really nice roof faces for solar.
Yeah.
So this will be the best roof face for solar, slightly angled towards north, but
That middle one's north facing, I think.
yeah. So there, it's a slightly lighter shade of orange, but you've taken a picture.
Yeah, so. It was a selfie.
So you can see kind of the size of a panel compared to your roofs. you're going to have the outcome that you want from solar.
Oh, yeah.
It's simple as that. It would just be a case on this, how many panels, because you could go crazy. You go absolutely mental on that roof, and that's only 1/3 of them. Well, that's that's the modeling software that we use. It's all data driven, so we give it loads of data, how much power you use, what you pay for power. I'm a bit of a numbers nerd myself, self-confessed, so I do little audits of this versus my actual customers that have gone ahead, and we look at their data that I'm going to show you. I've never had this software be below 95% accurate of what it's told me it's going to produce versus what the customer actually gets. So this software is amazing. It takes the guesswork out of it, and it's fun. You can play about throwing panels on the roof all day. So that looks great, but we've also got to show you, I'm going to show you kind of the monitoring that we use. So this looks great in theory, but how does it actually constitute in real life? So I'm going to take you into the back end of things here. So this is the monitoring software that we use. And I've grabbed up one of our customers called Elke, who's our biggest advocate. She absolutely loves us. So this is her system, and she's had a system with us now for years. So what you're looking at here, this is called solar analytics. So it's really, really cool in-depth monitoring of your system. So what we can see here is, I've gone on Elke's because she's got a whole year of data. So I can actually show you what her power bills have been, okay? So if I jump back to, I'll do January 2022. So you can see her power bill. So she has a battery system. She has, I believe, 27 panels, so a nice big system with a battery. And her power bill for January was -$91. So the power companies owed her money. So it's not just a pipe dream that those power companies can actually pay you money. It happens in reality. So yeah, her power bill was -$91 in a summer month. In December, -$62. And then if we look at kind of the winter months, because it's important to note with solar, we're generating a lot of power in summer when you use less power, compared to obviously winter when people use more power. So in winter, her power bill was $83, but you see that was offset by how negative her power bill was in January. So this is kind of a real that's in play. You can see how much power every day she's producing and using, and this is a numbers nerd like myself. We love this. So that's the software that we use. So Aurora Solar is how we model all our solar systems, and then we monitor all our solar systems using solar analytics, in-depth monitoring, and you can basically start putting in your power tariffs and stuff like that to see how much you're actually saving in reality. So I'll hand that back now to Kat.
So you can really see, how amazing solar can be when you've got your energy storage and that many panels on the roof. Like really wiping out your power bill is a real thing, which is pretty exciting. So I just wanted to touch on a little bit about Lightforce and our vision, our mission, our reason for being, our purpose, what sits at the heart of our business and which is our why, our reason for being. So our mission. Our vision is to empower a lighter, brighter future. Lighter in terms of the impact we have on the environment, and brighter in terms of the positive impacts we're having on communities around Aotearoa. So our mission is to give New Zealanders power to build thriving communities. And we do that by connecting New Zealand to good energy with positive impact. So here's just a wee video we made that talks to our vision, wraps it up quite nicely. So play that for you guys now. At Lightforce, our vision is to empower a lighter, brighter future for the whole of Aotearoa. Lighter in terms of the footprint we have on our environment, and brighter in terms of the impact we have in our communities. As the leaders of New Zealand's solar energy revolution, we're creating a lighter, brighter future by harnessing the cleanest, greenest, most cost-effective renewable we've got, the sun. By simply putting solar panels on the roofs of homes, businesses and farms up and down New Zealand, we can power our lives for the better using the sun's energy. Pretty neat, huh? The more of us that let the sun in, the more balance we restore in nature. And just as the land will come alive with the birds, the bees, and more vibrant shades of green, the coral reefs in the oceans will regenerate and fish will thrive. But our vision for a lighter, brighter future is also about you and me, and how we connect today to create a better tomorrow. So by working with iwi and education providers, our Lightforce Solar Training Academy creates opportunities for young people to get into the solar industry. By partnering with local like-minded businesses and our community workshops and events about food, nutrition and sustainability, educating tamariki and adults, so we can create healthier and better outcomes for ourselves, our families and for Aotearoa. And by gifting solar solutions to charities, we enable them to free up funds so they can focus on what they do best, making a real difference. With the oil industry predicted to collapse by 2030, a lighter, brighter, carbon-free future is closer than we think. But the decisions we make today will create the world our kids and grandkids will inherit tomorrow. So there's never been a better time to let the sun in. So that lighter piece, the lighter future, that's all about reducing our environmental impacts. And obviously, as we were saying in the video, it's a great thing. We're installing solar panels on businesses, homes, farms, commercial property up and down the country. But we really wanted to go that step further, and it was really important for us as a business to also gain carbon neutral certification operationally. And the intent of going through that process with ECOS was really to understand our business and the impact that our business has on the environment, or the way we do business, the way we run our business, so then we can really look at the way we do things. Obviously, offset our emissions was something that we wanted to do on completion, but it really was to gain that insight into how we can make changes to do better. And here's another video that talks to our carbon neutral certification video. Our carbon reduction journey is underway, and we've taken that first critical step by measuring and offsetting our carbon emissions, so we can proudly say that Lightforce is operationally a carbon neutral business. While giving New Zealanders access to clean, green, renewable solar energy by putting solar panels on the roofs of homes and businesses all over Aotearoa is a really great thing, it's really not enough. So it was super important to us to commit to the carbon neutrality of our operations too. So we engaged the awesome team at ECOS to help us begin this journey. We chose to support the Babatana Rainforest Conservation Project in the Solomon Islands to offset our carbon emissions. Now this is a pretty special project because unlike the planting of monoculture trees just to generate carbon credits, this project's actually owned and run by the indigenous peoples of Sasamonga. They've given up the rights for logging in exchange for the opportunity to sell carbon credits from this lowland tropical rainforest. The forest is also incredibly biodiverse. It's the home to thousands of unique animal and plant species. And this land is also the main source of food, income, medicine, building materials and water for the local families. We really wanted to support a project that had a meaningful social, not just environmentally positive impact. While it was essential for us to offset our emissions after the completion of the project, the primary intent of this journey for us really was to gain a real insight and understanding into the impact our business has on the environment, to be able to make changes to the way we operate and build an actionable framework to do better, especially as we continue to grow and expand. Our vision at Lightforce is to empower a lighter, brighter future for our environment and for our people, and that requires some serious mahi and commitment. We believe it's our responsibility as a business and as individuals to drive that positive change. So yeah, really cool project we invested in the Solomons. Again, important that we could achieve a positive environmental and social outcome at the same time. So that's why we did go offshore to offset our emissions. And that next piece, the brighter future piece. So that's all about empowering positive outcomes in our communities, which is really important to us at Lightforce. The positive impact that we can have out there. And our work in this space really sits under 4 kind of key community pillars. The first one is all about training our future, and we really believe that giving education really is the greatest gift you can give anyone. So our New Zealand first and only solar-focused training academy in Mount Eden backed by the Ministry of Social Development, is really this in action, presenting opportunities to our rangatahi, the next generation, that need them the most. And then we have our Solar for Good project, which we touched on earlier as well. So that's donating systems to charity and organisations that are doing really awesome work on the ground in our communities. And then the Growing a Lighter Future piece is all about sort of sustainability in our own backyard. So we're generating content, tips and running workshops all around sustainability, seasonality, things like composting, all that kind of good stuff. And then the Brighter Future Together piece is all about the partnerships that we're forging and developing with other brands or organisations that align with that vision of empowering a lighter, brighter future. So the Lightforce Academy has been a dream of ours for a long time, and we had our first students through in this year in April, and we've had 50 students through so far. And again, it was all about giving opportunities to communities, to individuals that need them the most. We're entering this, tipping point of this solar industry. It's going to be an incredibly thriving industry with so much opportunity. We've already got a labour shortage. We need to train people. And the reason our academy has been such a success to date is actually the way it's run, the way it's delivered. So it's interactive, it's gamified, it's fun, it's super hands-on. And every student comes out with an accreditation, whether that's, we've got working at heights, we've got asbestos training, health and safety, first aid, forklift driver's licence. So our students are just that one step ahead, whether they come to employment with Lightforce or they go on to another role. They have all these skills that they can take with them. But it really is that pastoral care piece that we've really invested in, and that's just incredibly critical to the success of our students. It's a partnership with Ministry of Social Development, so we have students coming through from all different backgrounds. So we have to really be cognizant of that, and we really focus on that inclusion, diversity, and providing support to our people coming through the academy. And we have a focus on bringing women into the academy too. We had three women on our first intake, and 2 of them are now employed with Lightforce, both installing solar for us, which is really cool to see. So we do have a all wahine course coming online in the coming months as well. So really keen to get women into trade, such an awesome career path. And I just, when you give someone that hope and you give them, you really believe in them and you let them know that, amazing things can happen. So here's a quick video from our students, just our students talking about their experience moving through the Lightforce Academy. We'll play that now.
One of the biggest things that I've learnt during this course has been how the solar panels are put on the roof and the wiring that goes into it, and then about the inverters and stuff like that. I didn't really know anything about the process coming in, and now I know what the process is.
One of the best things I've learnt on this course is that trying something new, something physical, learning that, the satisfaction you can get from a job doing that sort of thing. It's been awesome just to do something that I'd never considered before. So coming into this program, it was just, opened my eyes into a big part of life, a life that so many people lead and really enjoy, and I can see why they enjoy it. It's great.
What made me keep coming in every day was the atmosphere, the approach to everything. A lot of courses are very, you just sit, get spoken to, whereas this was very interactive and it was a lot more personable.
One thing I learned at the academy here, especially with the cabling and the crimping, that if you take your time, quickly do it really nice, it's going to come out with a great result and look really, really good too. And if you don't crimp some of these things down properly, they'll just instantly pull out, and then you can short one of the boards.
I was surprised to learn a lot.
about myself through engaging with my peers at Lightforce. It was something that definitely took me by surprise, and the reflections that I gathered working with my peers, I feel have been very useful to me in my own personal life. And yeah.
Honestly, what surprised me the most about the course was that a private company would be this holistic and caring about someone who's not even an employee yet. Because there's other companies, you could work for years and, they wouldn't take a chance on you. And yeah, without even having started, we got forklift, we got working at heights, we got, asbestos. And honestly, I think even if I didn't work here, those skills are going to set me up for life.
They have created a space and environment for me to be my true authentic self, to share, to feel understood, to feel seen and supported. I made a really good friend of him, and I'm crying now.
It feels like I'm coming to a marae every day and finding my way again. And pretty much been brought up in a marae, so I know my place. I feel like I know my place, and I feel like I'm in some sort of belonging here. Like the love that I get from this place, it's for my own self and my own growth. It's been out of this world, and I've done quite a lot of things, but this will be number one for me.
One of the happiest moments I've had was probably when we did our heights course, and I got right up to the top because I was really confident and I got really into it, and then I had a bit of a moment, and but I think the happiest moment was just when I got back on the ground and then realised that it wasn't that bad and I was in control the whole time, and then I had all my peers around me that were like, you were good, it was all good, don't worry about it. And then I was able to conquer so many fears that day that I never thought I'd be able to. And I really didn't know what to expect when I started Lightforce, but I think it gave me everything that I needed and more. Not only have I now got a career plan and a path, I've got a whole bunch of new friends and just a whole new outlook on life. I didn't know there were people out there that were genuinely trying to do good things like this.
So yeah, amazing to see our first 50 students through, and next year we're looking to bring on over 200 students. Amazing. And every single one of those students in that piece, bar one, has come into employment with Lightforce, whether they're installing, whether they're in our lead gen sales team, and they're killing it. So it's amazing. It's very, very cool to see. An initiative we have, which I touched on, is our Solar for Good project, where we gift systems to charities and organisations that are doing amazing things in our communities. So when we enter a new area, when we open a new hub, we really engage the community on the ground there. We run a campaign to find out who's doing amazing things in the community on the ground, and then the community actually votes on those organisations that they feel passionate about, and then we have a winner, and we install a big system with energy storage, so we can really, significantly reduce or wipe out that charity's power bill, so they can use those funds to do more of their good work and put them to better use. So Whangarei Native Bird Recovery Centre is an install we did recently, an amazing charity up in Whangarei. If any of you guys have visited, or if you're up there, it's definitely worth a visit. So Robert and Robin Webb run the Native Bird Recovery Centre, and they're an amazing couple, late 70s, 80s, and they're literally working 24/7 rehabilitating our native bird life. And they've got a really strong focus on education as well, so educating the next generation around the importance of looking after our wildlife and the environment and sustainability. Kai Rescue Centre is another install we're just about to do. They are part of the Nelson Environment Centre, amazing charity diverting thousands of tonnes of food waste from landfill. And last year there were 500,000 meals in in the previous 12 months. They produced 500,000 meals for whānau around the country, which is pretty amazing. Te Whakaora Tangata, another amazing charity we work with, based in South Auckland and the far north. They're working with ultra high-risk whānau in both those regions and really transforming the lives of families and communities. And then Edible Canterbury, another really cool little charity in Christchurch, focusing on food security and education. And then recently we've done a partnership with UNICEF and their Tū Tonga with Love campaign. So that was a charity auction that we donated a system to after the devastation of that tsunami and eruption at the beginning of the year. So communities are really still reeling from that devastation, and this was a part of us being a part of that rebuild. So we just installed that system last week or the week before. So yeah, a really important part of what we do in our vision and mission is that lighter, brighter future piece. So, when someone goes solar with Lightforce, they're also buying into this and they're enabling these amazing things to happen, which is a really, really cool thing. This is another program we've just started this year, the Kaumana Organic Farm Lightforce Partnership. So we're bringing in, it's in Grey Lynn. I don't know if any of you guys might have been to Kaumana Organic Farms. Amazing, amazing organic farm in the heart of Grey Lynn. An incredibly rich and engaging learning environment, and we're bringing in our little ones from low decile schools around Auckland, who might not otherwise have the opportunity to engage in this kind of amazing environment, and aligning what they're learning in this space with the syllabus, so it really has that's really sticks. This is a beautiful school in West Auckland, Glen Avon, high Māori and Pasifika role, and lots of refugee kids as well, and it's been amazing to see their reaction to learning in this amazing environment. It's been really, really cool to see. We're also partnering with another charity called Oki Gardens, and they are implementing really incredible garden builds at these schools. So the kids come in and they actually, part of the program is to develop, for the kids to design and build a garden, and then the garden's implemented. So there's so much more buy-in and engagement when they've been part of that process. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff going on in that community space that is really important to us. So that's pretty much it from us. Q&A. So, one second.
Yes, hello, my name's John. I was wondering.
Hi, John.
Compete with Solar Zero, who provide the panels for their cost.
Yeah. So entirely different business model. Entirely different business model. And Jordan will be the best person to talk to this. So with Solar System, you're renting the system and you'll get a small reduction, or a reduction on your power bill. But with Lightforce, you will own the system. And when the system's paid for itself in 7, 8, 9 years, we're seeing that really is the model that people are really preferring at the moment. But yeah, so not really a direct competitor, but solar on the roof and energy storage as well. So.
Thank you. Second question, if I may.
Might be
what about Bucky Paper solar cells?
Sorry?
Well, do you market an alternative to the normal Tesla style battery?
Yeah, we do.
System?
Yeah, yes. Jordan will be able to talk to that.
So yeah, we avoid using the Tesla battery because it has nickel and cobalt in the battery, which there's all kinds of ethical questions around how nickel and cobalt is mined in the centre of Africa. So we've actually stayed away from the Tesla because, as you've clearly seen, what Lightforce is about today, that child mining in the centre of Africa does not fit in with what we're all about. So all the batteries that we offer are what we call lithium iron phosphate batteries. So it's more modern than a nickel cobalt battery, and it has better longevity. So the answer to your question is yes, we don't actually stock the Tesla because it doesn't fit in with what we're all about at Lightforce.
What about Bucky paper?
Bucky paper?
Bucky, yes.
I have to say I've never heard about that, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Luke? Nope. Got to speak into the mic.
My name is Jeff. I know that there is no perfectly average installation.
Yeah.
It'll be different between Kerikeri and Dunedin. But what's an average price for the installation to get the, I think it was 8,000 kilowatt hours you said the average house is running?
So just that kind of system we were looking at there, about 15, 16 panels, you'd expect that to probably cost around $13,000 to $15,000. With the battery, you're looking at probably around about 23 to 25,000. Of course, you're absolutely right. A few different factors in there. That's kind of the range you'd expect it to fall in.
Oh, hi. I thought the Tesla batteries are lithium-ion, same as the batteries there is on the Tesla cars.
So the Powerwall, which is Tesla's battery, it has a nickel manganese cobalt core. Quite a mouthful. So it's not lithium iron phosphate, no.
Okay. And with your inverter electronics, are you able to charge, if you had a battery, are you able to charge the batteries at certain times of the day? For example, Contact has 9 to 12 free.
Yes.
And then how does that integrate back to an EV charging system?
Absolutely, and that's something we actually advocate for, is we often, if you're going down the battery route, look at Contact, because 9 till midnight, they offer 3 hours of free power. Yeah. So what people are doing now with battery systems is setting that, so the batteries are really smart now. It's not just a piece of, just like a big plastic thing that sits on your floor. You can log in on the portal and you can actually set those batteries to charge from the grid. So 100%, if you're on Contact, or look at Contact, set your battery between 9 and midnight, and you can top that right back up.
Can it do automatic switching so that if your EV was fully charged, would it then switch back and charge the battery, or would you go normally to the battery and then from the battery back to the EV?
So you can do that as the answer to that question, yes. So you can prioritize the EV, and only once the EV is charged, then charge the battery, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All good.
Just what's involved with getting building consents and things like that for the solar panels to go on the roof?
It's a good question. So you don't need building consent is the answer to that question. So the only bit of outside thumbs up we need is we need to go and tell your power lines company that you're now going to be selling power back to the grid. That's a formality, but you don't need any kind of building plans or thumbs up from the...
Do you need an engineering assessment for the wind loading on the panels and make sure the roof structure's suitable?
Yes, so we'll always check that the roof structure, basically when our team turn up on site, they'll do that assessment. It's incredibly rare, incredibly rare. You know, we get a lot of photos and we'll look at the roof, and if the roof is quite literally rusting and falling apart, we'll say no. But as long as the roof is in good condition, it's very, very rare that we can't install the panels. We use the existing screw lines in the roof, so we're mounting the panels onto your existing roof structure, so we're not basically drilling new holes in where there's not a lot of structural support.
On tile roofs, you don't drill into tiles, right? You've got anchors that go between the tiles, is that right?
That's correct. So with a tile roof, what they actually do is they'll push the tile up, and then they'll mount the actual the rails and the fixings to the roof structure. And then what they actually do is they file away the underside of the tile so it sits nice and flush on the roof. So we're not drilling through tiles. We're basically lifting the tile up, putting the mount underneath the tile, and then putting the tile back on top.
What solar panels do you use? What are the efficiency?
So we use a company called Trina Solar. So Trina Solar are monstrous players in the solar game. So they're one of only 4 companies in the world that they rate solar panel companies kind of how they rate mortgage bonds. And you know, you've got your AAA, your AA, your A, then you get to B. So they're a tier 1 company. Run a mile if anybody's offering you a non-tier 1 panel. And it's also one of only 4 panel manufacturers in the world that's AA and rated above. So we use Trina Solar, and the panel efficiency is 20.5% efficient.
I've heard...
Sorry, just so we can make sure it's on the live stream.
We've got a live stream that they want. Not just me talking.
I've heard people talk about having inverters incorporated into the panels themselves? So if a panel goes out or the inverter goes out, like what are you using?
Yeah, we use both is the answer to that question. So you've got your string inverter where all the panels are hooked up together and they work together with one sort of box on your wall. And what you're talking about there is micro inverters, where it's a little inverter that sits on each panel. So it's really cool. You can monitor all the panels' performances one by one, as opposed to the whole system. Microinverters are quite expensive. So if you just had, one roof face that had a row of panels on there, you wouldn't get a benefit from the production of the system with microinverters. So microinverters are great if you live in an area that's got a lot of trees around it, or you're using lots of different roof faces. But the answer to your question is we offer both. Microinverters are just quite a bit more expensive.
What about cleaning and maintenance? Do you have to get up and clean them? And can you do that yourself, or do you guys have to come and do it?
So cleaning and maintenance is really quite simple. With an inverter and a battery, it would be a duster. Just dust the top of it. Solar panels. So Trina Solar advise every 6 to 12 months, just water. Just spray water, a soft brush, and just give them. I'm not advising anyone jump up on a 2-story roof and start scrubbing the panels, but if it's nice and easy access to the panels, you can 100% do it yourself. Okay. But if it's 2-story, then don't grab an extended ladder and jump on your roof.
Okay, so you can find someone who can do that for you?
Yeah. So 6 to 12 months, just give them a clean.
Cool.
Simple as that.
That's an interesting point there. But do you do the cleaning of panels if it's required? Do you do the cleaning of the panels if it's required? I mean, can you come in to do it?
At the moment, we don't currently do the cleaning of the panels, but my colleague is in my ear about this every day, that it's a great business opportunity as New Zealand takes up solar. We don't currently clean the panels, but Luke?
Window cleaners is generally we use a window cleaner that does.
But not too many window cleaners want to get up on a 2-story roof, do they?
Yeah, well, the one that we use does. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Without scaffolding?
Yeah. Well, it's got extendable poles that you can bring.
Okay. I might get his name from you.
The lifespan.
Thanks, Abigail.
You've been told.
Yeah. The lifespan of the batteries?
Yeah.
How is that now? Because they used to be sort of not that great.
So the batteries that we use now, they'll come with a 10-year warranty out the box, so guaranteed for 10 years. So lithium iron phosphate batteries are good now in terms of longevity, so they'll offer you an 80% warranty after 10 years. So you have a 10 kilowatt hour battery today, in 10 years you're warranted to have an 8 kilowatt hour battery. So, compare that, if you only had a 50%, it'd be a bit, but we can comfortably say on the batteries, you probably expect 15 years with these newest batteries.
Any more questions?
Why not?
Where was the house, Elke's house? Was that Dunedin?
Elke's in Grey Lynn?
Grey Lynn.
Grey Lynn.
Just wondered, I thought it was probably far north or somewhere. Yeah, it was sunshine even at 7 in the morning.
She was in Bluff. She was in Invercargill.
Any more? Yep, we've got a hand up. Oh, great.
They know the rule now.
If your systems use solar tracking at all?
Do any of our systems use
solar tracking to actually sweep across the sky?
As in they follow the sun's trajectory across, not on a, so you'd only really use that on a ground mounted system. On a roof, it's all kinds of complications. We'll put them flat on the roof. On a ground mount system, we don't currently offer that. I've seen them around, but I'm yet to actually see one in New Zealand. So the answer to your question is no, we don't, but the solar game's moving fast. It'd be difficult to see that working actually on a roof though.
Right. Further to Jordan's point, there are a number of companies that make ground-mounted tracking solutions. So typically, traditionally they have been a little bit tough because the more moving pieces, the more bits that require maintenance, the more damage you get over time. However, they have moved a long way, so you do get some really good efficiencies from moving with a tracking solution. Typically, you need to be looking at a reasonably large-scale ground mount solution before that becomes a viable option. Again, just from an installation perspective, you are adding additional complexity. So, in short, yes, can be done. Yes, is very efficient when done properly, but it's not a solution for every situation. depends on the location, but you typically in the sort of 10 to 15%. There are different approaches that you can use, such as bifacial panels, which means both sides of the panel can charge. And what we're starting to see on a global scale is the likes of limestone put below panels, so you get some reflective glare also. Again, depends on the situation, but in those installations, you can be looking at up to 25% gains.
Anyone else? Speak now.
Really, sort of to get to the nitty gritty of the actual costs of installation and then actually how much you're saving is what it all really boils down to. I mean, you mentioned a sort of typical system. I remember earlier on you said was including battery. You're talking 25,000 or something. Is that right? And then earlier you mentioned sort of returns of, what was it? Was it 10% or 7 or 8% on that investment? So, yeah, I mean, you're talking sort of saving 2,000 a year then, are you?
So yeah, so
you're looking at a system where potentially you've got to be able to be saving 2,000 a year in order to get that return. I mean, if you're not even using that much electricity, then obviously you can't save sort of 2,000 a year. Is that what it boils down to? Naturally, and ultimately, so if you have a really, really small power bill, for example, and this is where our solar advisors come in, and they will advise, if your power bill is $60, $70, $80 a month, the numbers side of it, ROI, is not going to look that attractive. It's as simple as that. So the numbers, 10 to 15%, a solar system can pay itself off. Average is 8 to 10 years. So it's really driven by how much you pay for power. So far up north, they've seen them pay 60 cents per unit of power, which is criminal. So they'll get an amazing return on solar. Whereas if what you pay for power is, not quite as much, if you're actually getting quite a good rate for power, that will drag your payback period back slightly. So the number side of it, the batteries is more around that 10-year return on your investment, give or take. Solar only is about that 8 years, give or take. But to answer your question, yeah, if you've got a really small power bill, it's not going to look too, as appealing on the ROI side of things, is the answer to your question. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem we've got, is that most of our heating comes from gas. So the actual electrical power bill doesn't make it that attractive. The main attraction for me is actually the battery as a backup for when the power, if you get a power outage. Yeah. So it's I think probably our power bill, because the problem being that you've still got to be paying the power company for their standing charge, right? You're not talking about saving the standing charge. Or did I get the impression earlier on that you said that you supply power? Do you as a company supply power as well?
So Lightforce is also a power company. What is just kind of the electricity portion of just to kind of zoom through, what would you say the electricity portion of your bill actually is?
Well, I mean, probably our average bill for electricity is probably about $200 a month, but of which nearly half of it is the standing charge, right? So it's probably only $100 odd a month on average. And that's why it sort of is quite difficult to justify solar on the saving on that, because you need to be running it for a long time. But I would quite like to have the battery. Actually, one of the reasons I came along was to see whether can you actually just install a battery, just the battery. Do you do that?
You can. The ROI on just a battery look dreadful, but yeah, absolutely. We can sit down and I can talk through the numbers. Like I said,
that's a potential, is it? I mean, just to install the battery instead of having to have a generator or something like that, you just have a battery and then you keep it charged, and when there's a power outage, you've got backup supply.
It is an option as the answer to your question.
Okay, yeah, I'll be interested to talk. Okay, I won't occupy.
Well, yeah, 100%. We can sit down. We can actually, like I said, we can look at your consumption of power. We can use the numbers, and actually, we can give you an actual ROI. So it's going to be X amount of years with the battery, because you're looking at $200 power bill. If you can save 90% of your power bill, you could save $2,000 a year on a.
The problem is you use very little power, but you have to have power.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to.
Even the gas system doesn't work without some power, right? The gas heaters won't kick on. The central heating pump won't work. Nothing will work without power. You don't need much of it, but you need some.
I forgot to mention, so you're talking about the fixed line charges. You've got to pay the power companies even if you use no power at all. So there's companies out there like Lightforce. We offer 30 cents fixed daily. So you might be paying anywhere from $1 to $2. You'll pay 30 cents. There's even some out there at the moment that don't actually charge you on their low user tariff. So there's companies out there that you can go onto with solar where you can really minimize that fixed daily.
All right.
And when you factor in that you've only got to sell 4 units of power back to them, or 3 or 4 units of power back to the power companies every day to get rid of that fixed daily in what they're going to credit you versus what you pay.
Right.
So that's how you can really dig deep into the power bill.
Okay, too complicated to talk about now. Sorry.
I'd just say that we've got some of our consultants here, so anyone in the Lightforce top, if any of you guys want to have a chat afterwards, definitely be like to these guys. They've even got their laptops here, so if you want to build a quick system, we can totally do that. So yeah, just keep an eye out for the team.
I'll just get a card if I can, and then I'll get contact you later.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to see how strong your values are and the great work you're doing across the country, so thank you. My question is, what's the uptake been like for businesses across New Zealand? I've seen that it's like obviously our homes, really low at the moment, hoping to see that significantly increase soon, but yeah, keen to see, I guess, from the commercial sense how that's going.
Joel's probably your guy, but
he's our commercial manager, Joel.
Very low at this stage, but increasing, significantly.
Yeah, ultimately it's increasing at a very rapid rate. So the traditional challenge has been that people will look at alternate investment classes and balancing whether they buy a new CNC machine that gives them a 4-year payback or solar, which may take a little bit longer. It's now starting to shift more towards a sustainability angle. So particularly in the corporate space, they are either mandated by global parent companies or they're now taking a more holistic or balanced approach. Commercially, we typically see a better payback in that you're generating the power as you're using it. So I guess the best I've seen is in the 3, so sort of 3.5 years. Typically, we're seeing 6 to 7 years, so it is quite an improved payback. So what we do, we take even a deeper dive commercially, so we can break it down into 30-minute increments across a year. We can give you full visibility of what's happening with the generation versus your consumption. And typically on a corporate or commercial basis, that level of visibility is really well received.
Consultants out here if you do want to connect and find out a bit more. But otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Yeah, it's just been awesome to see how interested people are.